Are you wondering about ways that you can incorporate Bible into your homeschool? Maybe you haven't settled on a curriculum yet, but you want to make sure that your kids get Bible every day. Stick around. I'm going to share with you my plan on how I teach my children Bible even without a purchased curriculum. Hi, I'm Rebecca, and welcome to the Parent-Teacher Bridge, where you can find the ideas and resources you need to empower you to be your child's most influential teacher. And today, I'm going to share with you my plan for teaching Bible to my 3 children. Now, this coming year, I will have a 5th grader, a 1st grader, and a kid in junior kindergarten. So we do Bible together around the kitchen table. And this plan could work pretty much for any elementary aged child or pre-K child. So when I was looking at what our plan was for Bible this year, I had a couple of ideas from some curriculum companies that I purchased Bible products from before. However, they had raised their prices and it just wasn't in my budget. So although I'm not shutting that door completely right now, I am just going to continue doing what I have done for the last several months with my children for their Sunday school classes. So since the pandemic has started and has come to America, most churches are not having Sunday school classes. But I can honestly say that with my own children, I never stopped having Sunday school classes. And even for a few months, I held and hosted a Zoom Bible school class for some of my friends and some of the families at church who had elementary aged children. So I developed a plan for using this even on Zoom, but you can do it on your own at home. And it's using completely free materials. And all you really need is your computer, your internet, and some printer paper and a printer. Now, I had a couple of friends whose children were in my Zoom class who did not have a printer, but they just made do with some craft ideas that they found online. So I'm going to share that with you today, as well as my plan for continuing to teach these Bible lessons throughout the week with my children that I homeschool. Before I get started, make sure you click the like button and subscribe below so that you're aware each time I upload a new video that can be very helpful in your child's learning. So, if you watch until the end of this video, I'm going to include a link with all the resources that I have used, all the websites that I have used in teaching Bible for free from my own home. The first step that I did in planning my children's Bible lessons is I chose the Bible story or the Bible text that the story was based on, and I read it on my own straight from the Bible. Now that helped me a lot in just getting my brain to thinking about the storyline and what questions would come to my mind. And if I were reading the story aloud to a group of children, what kinds of questions would I stop and ask them to make sure that they are thinking, that they are predicting, that they are comparing as I read the story, and also to make sure that they understand some of the customs at the time or even some vocabulary that's within the scriptures. And so as I read the story through on my own, I would jot down any of these questions, and it just got me to thinking. And I typed them into a Google Doc. This was very helpful because I would share the link to the Google Doc with all the parents of the children who I was teaching in my Zoom class. But I also had it on hand for myself later. Now, when it came time for me to actually teach the class, I might not go verbatim with all those questions that I had thought of in advance, but just thinking of them alone and typing them out got me in the mindset of familiarizing myself with the story, and it helped a lot. But of course, if you need it to read off and, ask your child the questions that you have already pre-thought, that's absolutely fine. Let me give you a few examples. So here are a few examples. Why do you think that happened? What would you have done if you had been there? What happened next? Do you know what that word means? What do you think it means? Why do you think that? Does that remind you of anything else? So you can tell from some of these questions that I'm trying to get the children to think about the story as we read it. And when I'm teaching it, I do want to read some of the passage aloud with them, or if they are a reader, have them read it as well. Hi parents, is your child struggling to read or even hates to read? And nothing you have tried has worked? Get my free guide, 5 quick tips to immediately help your struggling reader. I'm going to show you the simple tricks that I've used for years to successfully improve children's reading and their confidence in reading. It's easy, it's simple, and it's free. Just go to theparentteacherbridge.com/reading help. You can find that link in the description below. Step number 2 is I find an online slideshow that corresponds with the passages or the Bible story that we are covering. So one of the websites that I like to frequent was Free Bible Images, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Free Bible Images, when you go to their website, there's a search bar, so you can type in the title of any Bible story or Bible account, if you will, that you know that you want to study. You can also use a drop-down box for Old Testament and New Testament, and then go directly to the books of the Bible and see what slideshows they have there that are available. You can download the slideshow, you can print off the slideshow, but for my purposes, I usually just included a link directly to the slideshow, and I put that link, again, in my Google Docs. So it's always there on my computer. All I have to do is go back and click that link. It opens up straight to the slideshow, and I can use the cursor keys on my computer. So at home, with my own 3 children, we just gather around my computer, and I go through the slideshow with them as I tell them the story. Now, the great thing about these slideshows on Free Bible Images is that they have narration. I can just read like 1 or 2 sentences at the bottom of the picture, and it tells the Bible story in a concise way. Again, it helps if I have already read directly from the Bible so that I can see if there's any, issues of accuracy as I'm presenting this to my children. Or actually, before I present it to my children, I always work through the slideshows first. These slideshows we have used at our church in the past for times where we've had VBS and we didn't have computers in our classrooms. We could just print out color copies, laminate them, put them on a little hook, and then we actually physically flip a slideshow with the children as we read the story in a concise way. So these were very helpful. And once you get familiar with that website, you're going to see that some stories have multiple slideshows just on that one story. And so you can take your pick as far as the animation that you like better or the length as far as how many slides are on each slideshow. Now, if you're watching this thinking, maybe I could teach a Bible class to some of the children from our church and include my children, that's great. If you use a platform like Zoom, you can click share the screen. So as long as you're playing the slideshow on your computer, it will share the screen with the students who are logged in on Zoom with you. You can do that if you want. Step number 3. Whenever I'm planning for the Bible, I always find 1 or 2 accounts that match the Bible story on YouTube in a cartoon animated film for the children. There are several churches and companies that put these out and post them on YouTube. I'm going to leave their links for you in the description below. So you're going to want to go check those out. I always previewed them the night before just to make sure that they are accurate. And I know I keep talking about the accuracy thing, but I do think that it is important that you double check because if you've ever gone to the Ark encounter in Kentucky, where you look at the life-size model of Noah's Ark built to the exact dimensions. There is a room there that they have full of children's books all about the theme of Noah's Ark or the Great Flood. And the point is, when you go in and you view that room full of all the children's books, is that not all Bible children's books are accurate. And the same is true for some of these Bible cartoons that you find on YouTube. Now, you can choose to point out the inaccuracies and have that be a lesson for your children to compare, maybe if you have an older child, or you might just choose not to watch that video with your children. But for the ones that you are finding are accurate over and over, go ahead and subscribe to their channel. If they're putting out good content, let's go ahead and let them know that they're doing a good job. They're really helping children out in the midst of all of the quarantining and lockdowns. It was really a great encourager for us as our children got together on Zoom and had Bible class together. So check that out. The YouTube videos provided a little bit of humor with some of the stories, and the children got to listen to the story from someone other than me. Now, the fourth and final step that I would take in planning this Bible lesson is I would find some sort of resource that the children could work on at the end of the lesson. That might be a coloring page that I printed out. That might be a crossword puzzle, a word search, or even a craft. And like I said before, some of the parents didn't have a printer, so they just kind of made do. They had glue, they had construction paper, so they were able to come up with some sort of craft together. If I could not find a coloring page that I knew would interest my children and keep their attention, I would just adapt the culminating activity to be something with Play-Doh or Legos. One of the very first lessons that we did was on the tabernacle. So at the end, we pulled out all of the Legos and we started building an actual model of the tabernacle. And we talked about all the different special areas and the different tables and the lampstands and all of those, the Ark of the Covenant. And that was really fun for my children to do and to share with others once they had it finished, post a picture online, and they were just really thrilled about that. So if you don't have paper, don't worry about that. You have toys and things like that around the house. You can even act out the story. But having something at the end that is culminating, that the children could just kind of like let the story soak in and have a little bit of fun, I found that very helpful. And again, in teaching more children on Zoom, they just had the Google Docs sent to their parents. And so they had the link for whatever page it was they were trying to print out. And sometimes I gave them several different options and just let the parents choose as well. Those are options that you can do, that I plan to do through the week once I introduce a lesson on Sunday. I am A-okay with repetition. I believe that it really helps the children to go back and start revisiting the story. We can all learn something new each time we go back and read scripture, and that's true for our children as well. Now, a question that you might ask is, how long do you spend on a lesson? Well, I spend longer when I'm first introducing the story, but I don't plan to do a new story every day. It's more like a new story every week. We go a little bit slower because we talk about the story throughout the week as well. So it can be anywhere as short as 25 minutes, or when I did it online and I involved other children and had kids actually get a chance to read scripture themselves, it might last up to 45 minutes. But during the week, how can you extend this lesson? If you've taught your children something on Sunday from home, using the steps that I've given you, using the resources that I've given you, what will you do the rest of the week? Well, this year I definitely plan to do a better job with memory verses, and they don't necessarily have to be related to that Bible story. And I don't have to do a new memory verse every week. I would just rather that they work on a memory verse for a while until they really know it and not go too quickly. So I do plan to do a video on that as well. So keep an eye out for that. But as far as the Bible story, you could use the next day and copy part of the story or a verse or two and use that as a copywork, handwriting opportunity. There are other Bible cartoons that aren't a 3 or 5 minute YouTube clip that you can also look up and watch, or maybe even an excerpt of a Bible movie that actually shows that story. You can do that. You can have your child, if they are a reader, read from an easier version of the Bible, that story that you have. You can, if you didn't do a coloring page, do a coloring page. If the next day you want to do a word search, do a word search. So there are lots of opportunities for working in the Bible story if you didn't get to it Sunday. We normally didn't do a huge craft on Sundays, but that's something that you could work on later in the week. You could have your children write a paragraph and summarize it, or just draw a picture, paint a picture. As long as they're talking about it with you, that's great review, and they will learn. So what are your thoughts? Did you hear an idea in this video that you would like to try in your own home? Leave a comment. I would love to hear it. And did you continue with your Sunday school lessons during the pandemic? What did you do? I'm always open for new ideas. Don't forget to share this video with a friend who you think would find it very helpful, and follow the Parent Teacher Bridge on Facebook and Instagram. If you'll go to the description below, you can get my 5 quick tips to immediately help your struggling readers. So be sure to check that out as well. Remember, you are your child's most influential teacher.